Hi everybody. Today we are on this is the second video today. We're close to the end. Today is Thursday, so we are close to the end of the week beginning on July the 15th. Due this week are two things. One is team members information posted on module 1, the module 1 discussion board by 1 p.m. on Friday. That's 1 p.m. tomorrow, and an individual commentary by each individual student on module 2, the discussion board associated with module 2. And these should follow the instructions in the syllabus, which are provided above at the top part of the syllabus. So let me go to the website to see if there are questions. So this is the area for generic questions. And so we don't have any new questions here. This one was already answered. So it's going to be here that you're going to be posting, that the team leaders will be posting information on their teams. Okay, let me check under module 2. That's where you're going to be doing entering your individual commentaries. So we have one by Jesus, one by Perla. They seem fine. You don't have to go beyond 1,000, but you have to be in between 2,050 and 1,000 words. We have one by CM Kumar. He's asking how many rows. I guess this was answered already. I understand that the data set file should contain approximately 300 words, 300 rows of data. That's not approximately 300 rows, it's minimum 300 rows because of what I discussed in the previous video, which is the statistical power of the analysis. With 100 words, 100 rows of data, you would have, if the path coefficients are relatively weak, you would have false negatives with 100 rows of data only. So you need 300 or more, 1,000, 2,000. I wouldn't go beyond 10,000 because then you're going to have a data set file that is too large, and it will be difficult for you to meet one of the requirements of this course, which is to have a data file. So in the final team deliverables, the data file, which should be an MS Excel file, and the Excel file should be provided in the same format as these Excel files that are provided here, with a couple of sheets in the workbook, one describing the scenario and the data, and the other with the data itself. So, and the file should be no more than 1,000 megabytes in size. So if you have like 10,000 records or 100,000 records, you may go beyond this. So we don't have to have that many rows in the data set. Generally speaking, if you have a data set with, say, 1 million, 2 million records, and you sample 10,000 from those 1 million or 2 million records, you're going to get path coefficients that will be pretty much the same as the ones you would get with the bigger file. So 10,000 records practically eliminates what we call sampling error, as long as the sampling is random. If you don't do the sampling random, then your analysis with a smaller data set will not be representing the bigger file. And if there are differences in the bigger file caused by data collection characteristics, then you can actually segment that larger data file. So for example, let's say you have 1 million records, but you have say 100,000 from 10 countries each, so that adds up to 1 million. Then you could analyze those. You could sample from each one of those 100,000, sample 10% of that, and then get your 10,000 and analyze. But analyze them separately, because given that the data is collected from different countries, you may have different patterns in the data. And you can then compare those different analyses and coefficients. That's not something that I expect you to do for this course. This would be much more sophisticated and difficult than what we're looking at here. And I noticed that in some of the comments that I've seen here, I noticed some discussions about the kinds of data you're looking at. And one thing that I can tell you right now that you need to keep in mind as you look for a data set is that you have to do an analysis that is similar to one of the analysis conducted here, and the analysis, they are all discussed in these YouTube videos and also in the textbook. And as I told you, you have to read the textbook. If you read because you've taken a course before that covered this topic, great. I suggest you read it again. If you have not, you have to read it now. And as I said before, the best examples of what I'm envisioning for your project data analysis are these two here. This one in particular, 2.3. 2.2 is also a good example. And in both cases, what you have, let's take a look at this one. So in this case, and that's true for the other one, you have a main dependent variable and you have plausible causes. So in this case, the data is from a car parts manufacturer, and this variable is satisfaction with car parts delivery. This is a car parts manufacturer that manufactures and delivers car parts to automakers. And here you have courtesy in the delivery, lateness of the delivery cost, freight cost, and quality of packaging. And so these are all plausible causes of satisfaction. You have to have this, when you build your models, you have to have something like this, a main dependent variable and plausible causes. And for example, here, it would not be plausible to assume that satisfaction with the delivery causes the courtesy in the delivery. It's more plausible to consider the other way around in terms of direction. So that is the type of thing that I was discussing before. What you're doing here in this project requires semantic knowledge that a machine learning algorithm would not have. A machine learning algorithm, if that algorithm was to build a model like this using the same variables, that algorithm might put this variable here as the main dependent variable because the algorithm doesn't understand what these variables mean. You, humans, understand. So humans have semantic knowledge. Humans know the meaning of things. Computer programs, they may give you the impression that they have semantic knowledge, but they don't. And the other example is also similar to this one, a little bit more complex, in which you have a main dependent variable or a main endogenous variable in statistical parlance, model-driven data analytics parlance. And then you have plausible causes which mediate the effect of another cause on the main dependent variable. And again, I will say what I said in the previous video. For your projects, I would like to see a model with 7 latent variables or more. So this one has 5. The other one has, I think, 5 as well. Yeah, 5. So I want you to have, for your project, 7 or more latent variables. Right? The latent variables are these oval symbols. They can aggregate one or more column of data in your data set. And the data has to be numeric. And it has to be numeric, and the numbers have to reflect a measure of something. And I'll give an example of data that is numeric, and the numbers, they don't reflect a measure of anything. And I've had in the past a team that used what they wanted to measure was the level of wealth in a particular city. I think it was the city of Laredo. The wealth of the neighborhood and how it affected a main dependent variable. And they used zip codes for that. But they used the zip codes directly. And then they got a path coefficient that meant nothing because the zip codes, the numbers, they don't reflect the wealth of the neighborhood. What you can do is actually aggregate. That's what I told them to do. So split the zip codes that they had into wealthy or more wealthy or less wealthy, and then code those variables as 0 and 1, 1 being more wealthy, 0 less wealthy. I think they did north and south zip codes, and then more wealthy north, less wealthy south. And that was a way of coding the variable in a way that would make sense. Using the zip codes themselves directly was meaningless, even though zip codes are numbers. So you have, but again, it's not just, you can say, well, there's a lot of data that we can analyze, that we have access to. Well, but you have to build a model that is of interest to a client organization, and that is a model like this with one main dependent variable and plausible causes. And this type of analysis, it's very useful because it allows you to prioritize the causes in terms of, in order of their absolute effect on the main dependent variable. And in doing so, and it's also based on other factors, you can then manipulate the factors that influence these plausible causes. And that's, so if you read the textbook, you understand what I'm referring here. Also, watch the videos, these 2 videos here. Okay, And I'm monitoring the time here. I don't want to have these videos too long to avoid rambling. Okay, so we have already 2 students that met already. They already did their individual assignment for this week. The rest of the class will have to do here in module 2. Only 2 did, right? A question I will answer, but that's not the individual assignment. All right, let me see. I think I may have messages, questions in the messages. Okay, yeah, we have one here. Got it. Not sure. Maybe the person. Oh, okay. Maybe they are communicating among themselves, or maybe this was not intended to me. This is why I suggest you put questions under module 1 in that discussion board, because sometimes the questions that are sent here, they're not meant to me. This one is meant to me. Okay, I was unable to participate in week 1 because I was seriously affected by Hurricane Beryl. I live in Houston. Could you please give me? Yes, it's fine. No problem. Thank you for letting me know. If you have problems like this, just do your best to do what needs to be done, even if late. The deadline is tomorrow, but given this, if you can do by the following week, that will be fine. One thing you should know, though, is that the system we are audited by many organizations, accreditation agencies. We are audited by the A&M system itself, the government, and so on. And we are actually we are required to give an F to students because of non-attendance. If in a course like this with 7 weeks, if the student misses attendance for 2 weeks or more, roughly speaking. And so the way we monitor this is based on the assignments, right? So be careful with that. Even in tremendous hardship, we cannot, we have to enforce this rule because of the nature of these courses, 7-week courses. What we can do in a situation of hardship is to, the student can make a special request to the registrar to withdraw from the course, and then I would support that request. But we've had students in the past that say missed half of the course because of something very serious, out of their control, like disease, a natural disaster. I believe we've had even abductions and serious matters. And in those cases, what we can do is allow the student to withdraw so that the grade doesn't suffer, but we cannot bend the rules too much because of these audits that we are under. So, for example, in the case of a natural disaster, my advice to a student would be, if this is going to affect 2 weeks of your participation in the course, I would strongly recommend to either withdraw from the course or to try something else, even moving to another place. Like we have students in Corpus Christi sometimes that come to Laredo to complete their coursework online because of a disaster, because of hurricanes that hit Corpus Christi. So that's just the nature of these courses that we have. They are offered in a particular period of time, and they can be problematic. This is why courses that are too short in duration can be a problem for certain students, like 5 weeks, or even the main master courses, which are half a month. That can be really problematic for a student who has a problem out of their control during that period. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna continue talking about the course down the road. Ways to find information. One thing that I would say here as a final comment is, let's say you're working with a private organization. There was a student team who said that working with the city government could be interesting. Yes, it would be, because the city government has to provide all the data to the public because of government transparency laws. So yeah, you don't have to worry about confidentiality of data. You can check with them, but generally speaking, government organizations have to provide all data about their operations to the public upon request. And quite often they publish that data online. Now let's say you're working with a company like AGB. This is a grocery store chain in Texas, and a very good one. They are private, so they are not publicly traded. So you can get as much information about them as possible by talking to people at AGB, but more information like revenues, profit margins, and so on, it may be hard to get. And one way to try to understand the industry as well as possible, which I told you is very important for you to do, is to understand their finances. So what you typically would do in a case like this is to study a competitor that is publicly traded. And in the case of AGB, well, if you do a Google search, publicly traded grocery store chain, you'll probably get some ideas. The one that I would study would be Kroger, because Kroger even operates in Texas, where AGB also operates. So in Kroger, you can get a lot of information about Kroger online. One of the places would be Yahoo Finance. And in Yahoo Finance, you just enter the name of the publicly traded company, Kroger. I just noticed the market is down today. I don't know exactly why. I'll check after this video. But so here you have tons of information about Kroger. By the way, most of this information is actually based on information that is also publicly available from the SEC Edgar search. And this is actually, if you really want the source of all financial information about companies, you go to Edgar, and then you do a search for a company here, and then you can get insider trading reports and so on. Typically, I like to take a look at the 10Qs and the more comprehensive ones. In this case would be the 11K reports, I also like to take a look at 10Ks. But here you get a lot of information about the company. And you also get that information. You also get information here on Yahoo Finance. Sometimes Yahoo Finance has incorrect data, so I always double check with what they report here to the government, the SEC, because here you usually get the more correct information. But here you have tons of information. And here's something interesting that you'll find, that is the profit margin, and that's what you expect for a grocery store chain. So profit margins for grocery store chains are small, and that affects how the company operates. So a grocery store chains to grow in size, they tend to grow their operations so that, because their profit margins are so small, the way to actually have absolute large profits is to have a large number of sales, right? A large amount of sales through a large number of stores. So their annual sales, $150 billion. Let's see if that's what they have here. So this is a balance sheet. Yeah, they would probably have that in another report. They tend to have more from 10Q, 10K. So in their quarterly report, often they will have annual data as well. So this first quarter ended May 25, $45 billion in revenue. So if you consider this, multiply this by 4 for 4 quarters, so you're gonna get close to 150 billion, which is what they're reporting here. So yeah, that seems to be a correct number. The absolute profits before taxes and depreciation amortization is the EBITDA. So that's 8 billion. So that's a lot of money, and they have that because they have many stores, and so they have a large amount in sales. So that's $8 billion. So that gives, these numbers from Kroger give you an idea of what you would expect with a company like AGB. So low profit margins, but potentially large profits if they have many stores, which would lead to a large amount in revenues. Well, $150 billion in revenues is plenty. Be surprised. So market capitalization of a company like this, $39 billion. So $150 billion in revenues. Let's see how much Oracle has in revenues. So look at the capitalization, the difference. So Oracle has a market cap, or the value of the company in the market is $383 billion. But when you look at revenues, they have a third of the revenues of Kroger. So it's interesting, right? And part of the reason that they are so valuable is that you see the profit margin, right? The gross profit margin here is quite high. I'm calling this gross profit margin, but it's not actually what sometimes they call gross profit margin, but it's profits below before taxes, appreciation and depreciation and amortization, EBITDA. So it's much higher than Kroger. So they are much more profitable company.